1996. If someone had told you that Kodak would one day go bankrupt, you probably would have laughed, because Kodak wasn't just another company, it was photography. For over a century, the name Kodak had been woven into millions of lives. The first family vacation, a child's first birthday, a wedding day, a graduation. Some of the world's most precious memories existed because of a small roll of Kodak film. The company employed more than 145,000 people. Its products were sold in nearly every country on Earth. Its annual revenue reached billions of dollars. And for decades, Kodak looked untouchable. But hidden behind all that success was a decision, a single decision, that would eventually destroy one of the most iconic brands in history. The strange part? Kodak wasn't defeated by a smarter competitor. It wasn't destroyed by a revolutionary invention. In fact, Kodak invented the very technology that would replace everything it had built. And instead of embracing it, the company chose to protect the past. That decision would cost billions of dollars, tens of thousands of jobs, and a reputation that had taken more than 100 years to build. This isn't just the story of Kodak. It's the story of what happens when success becomes a trap. Because sometimes, the greatest threat to a company isn't the competition. It's the fear of changing. To understand how one of the world's most powerful companies collapsed, we have to go back to a time when taking a single photograph wasn't as simple as pulling a phone from your pocket. A time when photography itself was considered a luxury, and where one man's obsession would change the world forever.
I never dreamed that movies were so easy to take. Actually, they were as easy as taking snapshots.
The year was 1888. Back then, photography was anything but simple. Taking a single picture required heavy equipment, fragile glass plates, dangerous chemicals, and a surprising amount of patience. Photography wasn't designed for ordinary people. It belonged to professionals, scientists, and the wealthy. For everyone else,
a built-in electric eye light meter adjusts your camera for you and gives you the right exposure automatically.
Capturing a memory was almost impossible. Then came a young bank clerk named George Eastman. Eastman wasn't trying to build a global corporation. He had a much simpler goal. He wanted photography to become easy. He believed memories shouldn't belong only to professionals. They should belong to everyone. For years, he experimented with new materials, lighter cameras, and better film. Most of his early attempts failed, but every failure pushed him one step closer. Finally, in 1888, everything changed. Eastman introduced a small camera unlike anything the world had ever seen. It came preloaded with enough film for 100 photographs. When the roll was finished, customers mailed the entire camera back to Kodak.
A fine 35mm camera by Kodak called the Automatic 35. It lets you take beautiful color slides and get the right exposure time after time automatically.
The company developed the pictures, reloaded the camera, and sent it back. Simple, convenient, revolutionary. Kodak's slogan said everything people needed to know. You press the button, we do the rest. Those 6 words transformed photography forever. For the first time in history, anyone could become a photographer. Parents, travelers, children, families. Kodak didn't just sell cameras. It sold memories, and people couldn't get enough of them. The film was the business. Every photograph required film. Every roll of film needed to be developed. Every developed photo meant another visit to a Kodak lab. The camera was simply the key, and it was one of the most profitable business models the world had ever seen. As more families bought cameras, Kodak sold more film. As more people traveled, Kodak sold more film. Every special moments meant another yellow box with the Kodak logo on it. In 1900, Kodak introduced the Brownie camera. It cost just $1. For the first time, photography became affordable for ordinary families. Children could own cameras. Photography was no longer a luxury. It had become part of everyday life. By the middle of the 20th century, Kodak wasn't following the industry, it was the industry. Its products filled store shelves across America, Europe, and Asia. Its factories operated around the clock. Its scientists filed thousands of patents. Its brand became one of the most recognized names on the planet. At its peak, Kodak controlled nearly 90% of the film market in the United States. Think about that for a second. 9 out of every 10 rolls of film sold carried the Kodak name. To most people, Kodak looked unstoppable. And perhaps that was the beginning of the problem. By the 1970s, Kodak, the best research laboratories in the industry, some of the brightest engineers in the world worked inside Kodak. One of them was a young electrical engineer named Stephen Sasson. In 1975, Sasson was given an unusual assignment: experiment with a new type of image sensor. No one expected the project to change history. Using a CCD sensor, a handful of electronic components, and a cassette tape for storage, he built something the world had never seen before: the first digital camera. It weighed nearly 4 kilograms. It captured images with a resolution of just 0.01 megapixels. Each photograph took more than 20 seconds to record. By today's standards, it was painfully slow. But none of that mattered, because for the first time, a photograph existed without film. No chemicals, no negatives, no developing process, just light turned into digital information. One executive reportedly asked, "So, when would anyone ever want to look at a photograph on a television?" It was a reasonable question at the time. The world still revolved around film. Digital photography felt like science fiction, but the technology was real, and Kodak owned it. The question was no longer whether digital photography would work. The question was, would Kodak be willing to replace the business that had made it one of the richest companies in America? Throughout the 1990s, the world began to change faster than anyone had expected. Digital cameras became smaller, cheaper, better. They improved year after year. Every year, the number of people buying film decreased. Companies like Canon and Sony weren't trying to cling to an outdated business model. They focused entirely on the future. Then, there was Fujifilm. Unlike Kodak, Fujifilm accepted a harsh reality. The age of film was coming to an end. Instead of resisting change, the company reinvented itself. It expanded into the field of medical imaging. It turned to business areas that had little to do with traditional photography. Kodak, on the other hand, remained stuck in the past. The company that had once invented the future was now struggling to survive in that very future. Then, another turning point arrived. In 2007, Apple launched the iPhone. At first, very few people saw this as a threat to camera companies. The camera wasn't even the device's main feature. But over the next few years, smartphone cameras evolved at an incredible pace. People no longer needed to carry a separate digital camera. For them, the best camera was the one already in their pockets. Demand for compact digital cameras plummeted, and with that, any realistic chance Kodak had of catching up vanished. Toward the end of the 2000s, the numbers told a story that no one at Kodak wanted to hear. Film sales were plummeting. Photo labs were disappearing. Factories that had once operated day and night were closing down, one by one. Thousands of employees lost their jobs. The company that had defined photography for generations was shrinking before the eyes of the entire world. The market had changed. Everything was changing, but Kodak hadn't been able to change. Then, on January 19, 2012, the unthinkable happened. Eastman Kodak filed for bankruptcy protection under Chapter 11 of the Bankruptcy Code. The company that once employed more than 145,000 people, the company that had shaped an entire industry, could not survive in the industry it had pioneered. History, in a strange way, reminds us of this. Nothing can stay at the top forever. Most people think Kodak's biggest mistake was failing to invent the future. But that's not true. Kodak had invented the future. It just didn't believe people were ready for it. The company feared that embracing digital photography would destroy the business it had built over more than a century. Kodak's story isn't really about cameras. It's not about film either. It's not even about photography. It's about something much bigger. It's about what happens when success convinces you that change can wait. Right now, somewhere, another company is making the same mistake. Another executive is protecting yesterday's profits instead of embracing tomorrow's opportunities. Another industry is quietly changing right before everyone's eyes. And years from now, people will look back and ask the same question. How could they not have seen this coming? The truth is, they probably did see it coming. They just believed they had more time. But they didn't. And neither does anyone else. Because it's not history that destroys companies, it's complacency. Sometimes, the future isn't created by the people who invent it. It's created by the people who have the courage to embrace it. Sometimes history doesn't whisper, it warns us. Take a closer look.